Hello. The first argument that I would like to speak on is that there's a misunderstanding of faith's relationship to reason. So, Moreland says that faith is widely believed to be a blind trust in something that doesn't have sound reason to be believed in. Well, actually, faith is built upon reason. Moreland says in chapter 2 that ignorance is not a Christian virtue if those virtues mirror the perfection of God's own character. Moreland says that God is not just a God of revelation, he's also a God of reason. Wouldn't it make sense that if God created everything, that there would be evidence of him everywhere? Faith is not just blindly believing in something, but searching for proof of him everywhere, from patterns in nature to miracles in medicine to the goodness in humans. Faith is something that we understand as Christians, but when trying to communicate our faith to a non-believer, we need to also be well-versed in topics that they do understand. I think of how many atheists know the Bible inside and out so that they don't seem ignorant to their counter-argument. In the same way, Christians must study to become knowledgeable in every subject so that we may become equipped and ready to defend our God. Moreland continuously speaks about the need for knowledge, not just of the Bible, but of earthly topics as well. So things like science, history, language, math, etc. Faith alone is not an effective argument for someone who doesn't understand it, but to use evidence of science or literature or math in defending your faith may lead to a more successful conversation. While the Bible tells us to trust the Lord and have faith, it also provides evidence of knowledge. Moreland says knowledge is to represent reality in thought or experience the way it really is on the basis of adequate grounds. So by using evidence of the knowledge of God in the Bible, we can validate the reality of God. Moreland gave many examples of evidence of knowledge in Scripture. For example, 1 Corinthians 15:58. Always give yourself fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. Another one he used was 1 Timothy 1:8. We know that the law is good if one uses it properly. These are things we know because we have reason to believe they are true. They have been proven over time. So the Christian faith isn't built solely upon faith, but upon the reason to believe that it is true. So the second argument that he made that I would like to talk about are weakened world missions. Moreland told a story about a national Christian leader who, in a conference, requested that evangelists stop being sent to his country because they were Marxists bent on overthrowing the government. And I'm currently a missionary in Central America, so I can attest firsthand to this concern, because when I was being interviewed to come here, I was warned that my job was to spread the gospel, more specifically in a school setting as a teacher, but not to change their culture or the interworkings of the school or bring my cultural ideas into the school. It's ignorant to assume that your way of life is better just because that's what you've always known. Just because people do things differently doesn't make them wrong. For example, in the United States, it's frowned upon for teachers to touch students. But on my first day of school here, my kids were running away from me, interrupting a program that we had going on. And because I have been conditioned to not physically handle children, things were getting out of hand. I didn't know how to effectively communicate, but some teachers here showed me, no, it is okay. Here we can touch students. You're allowed to grab them. You're allowed to take them back to, their seats. And that wasn't something for me to later on express that, oh, that's not how we do things. That's wrong. That was a learning point for me because I am now teaching in a school where that is okay, and I need to be accepting of that, and I need to be the one to learn something in that aspect. So I think anti-intellectualism has really infiltrated world missions because it's now primarily viewed as a career empathy to people not in the field. Personally, I think the short-term mission trips have affected people's view of world missions. They have the sense of entitlement that their lives are so much better, and they are blessed and humbled to go to these countries for a week and help the less fortunate. This is because they haven't taken the time to educate themselves on their language or customs or history or way of life. In chapter 3, Moreland mentions the analogy of doctors and an ordinary person physically seeing the same thing, but the doctor is observing more because of his knowledge. Same goes for missionaries. When you have the cultural and linguistic knowledge of your country, you can effectively communicate the gospel because you know how. Like the example Moreland uses of Jesus talking to the Sadducees, while there was a seemingly better scripture to use, Jesus said what he said because that's what the Sadducees needed to hear, because he was educated on their people. Same is true for world missionaries. It's not simply a field of love and compassion, it's also a field of knowledge and understanding of their way of life. So I think in both of these arguments, it just shows how beneficial it is for Christians to be knowledgeable and be intelligent and be well-versed, and like Moreland said, just continuously searching for knowledge and gaining knowledge, because that's how we are going to relate to people and just equip ourselves to share the gospel. Thank you.